Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniature wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players tune Necromunda, build their starting rosters, and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we'll discuss playing an Inquisitorial Retinue gang in the Aranthian Succession. We'll discuss the benefits of playing in the Aranthian Succession, feature the gang's unique attributes, provide a 2,400 point starting roster, demonstrate how you can play this gang on the tabletop, and provide tips on how to develop this gang as your campaign progresses. So if you're wondering what's going on in this video, I'm doing something a little bit different by creating a game that's actually not really available for Necromunda players, and that is the concept of it is an Inquisitorial Retinue gang. Now, the reason why I did this is because in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, you have Inquisitors who are basically like agents for the Imperium of Man, who basically conduct missions and do all kinds of interesting things all over the galaxy of the Imperium, doing missions to stop heretics, etc. What I thought was interesting is that these Inquisitorial agents have a lot of autonomy, and they also have like retinues that they develop among themselves, people that they picked up along their way in their adventures, and they have some really varied and some pretty wild looking retinues for that. Anybody who's ever read the Gregor Eisenhorn books knows exactly what I'm talking about in this one. So because I thought, what would happen if you try to make a gang like this in Necromunda as well, and so I decided to kind of do this. Plus, I was also inspired by another YouTuber on this platform. His name is Double Skull Wargaming. If you haven't checked out that channel, I highly suggest that you do. He makes some really awesome narrative battle reports. The production quality of his battle reports are absolutely amazing. He's got beautiful miniatures, as well as really interesting designs for his battlefields. In fact, I have a description in my description box down below. I have a link to his channel. You should check it out immediately. And he actually has a really interesting character called Inquisitor Forlax, who actually goes around and does things on Necromunda. So I thought, what would it be like to actually create this character and this retinue for Necromunda, and what would that look like? And so this is the list that I came up with. So why would you want to play Inquisitorial Retinue gang? Well, by Banters, why not? You have a really cool, interesting development of terms of a bunch of different types of characters, a unique kind of flavor with this gang as well. Plus, this list also really demonstrates the flexibility that Outcast gangs really have. You have a lot of flexibility when it comes to an Outcast gang, and you can make some really interesting, zany, and kind of wacky kind of gangs with that kind of list, with that being said. And at the same time, you can also make some really unique and interesting gangs that you really don't see on the tabletop. So that's what we'll be doing on this video today. Now, because this video is a deeper dive, I do have timestamps down in the description box down below. That way you can click and navigate to different parts that interest you the most about this video. So that being said, let's talk about creating an Inquisitorial Retinue in the depths of Necromunda. Now, before going any further, let's talk about why you would want to play in the Aranthian Succession. And the reason why is because the starting credits you have to create your gang is a big indicator of that. You get anywhere between 2,000 to 2,400 credits to start your gang. If you're staying in the exclusively in the Underhive, you only get 2,000 credits, but if you're venturing on the Ash Waste, you get 2,400. That 400 extra credits can be spent on vehicles as well as mounted fighters. Now, what that does, it gives you a lot of points to play with in order to create your really interesting looking gangs. Another thing that's cool about the Aranthian Succession, you can double the number of champions that is available in your gang. So that part is kind of nice too. Now, do keep in mind, if you do have the double number of champions in your roster, you do have to have the exact same number of gang fighter X characters in your gang as well to help kind of balance it out. The composition rules still are in effect with that as well. Now, the nice thing about this is because you have double the amount of champions as well as double the amount of starting credits, you could actually make a really interesting gang list. Instead of getting 20 to 25 miniatures, just focus on the normal amount of miniatures you usually start off with a gang and just really equip them with that extra point value to make some really cool combinations. Things like giving them really good war equipment, giving them war gear, for example, like respirators as well as photo goggles, get really good powerful weapons, really good armor, get some things like refractive fields and field armor, exotic beasts, that kind of thing. That way you're not worrying about spending too much credits on actually getting a bunch of different fighters who are kind of weakly equipped, and at the same time saving yourself a bunch of money in your pocketbook as well. So like I said before, the unique attributes of this specific gang really is it really shows the Outcast gang's real flexibility, and that's where the real power of an Outcast gang kind of shines. The only other gang that is more flexible than this would probably be a Venator gang, and you can do some really cool things with the Venator gang as well. You can make some really powerful combos, which actually will lead to you having a lot of victory on the tabletop as well. Now, for this specific list, it's actually got a good balance of shooting as well as fighting on this list. I'll talk about that when we actually break down the actual starting roster. And like I said before, this whole thing was inspired because of Double Skull Wargaming. He has an interesting character named Interrogator Forlax, which is a character that he uses in a few of his battle reports, and I thought it'd be kind of interesting to make a gang built around this character and create an Inquisitorial Retinue to actually support this guy. And I've used a couple of Double Skull Wargaming's videos in order to create this list by looking at some of the things he had for that character as well. Like I said before, I do have this link to his channel on my description box down below. I highly suggest you check it out. It's got some really cool stuff in it. So that being said, let's go and talk about the starting roster real quick. So this list I am calling Double Skull Wargaming's Inquisitorial Retinue Outcast Gang, and is based on Interrogator Forlax's Inquisition Retinue, which is going to cost you 2,400 credits to fill this group, and it's going to be a House Outcast Gang, and the house they're going to hail from is House Van Sar. Now the reason why I did that is because House Van Sar's got some access to some really powerful weaponry. They also got a lot of cool upgrades in terms of vehicles, as well as ash cutters that fighters can use to actually zoom around the battlefield on those as well. So because of that, I decided to use that attribute for this gang in order to illustrate that you can get those equipment from House Van Sar. But at the same time, the reason why I'm also interested in this list as well is that the leader is actually not a House Van Sar leader, and we'll talk about that here in a second when we talk about Interrogator Forlax himself. So let's talk about Interrogator Forlax real quick. He's going to cost 575 credits, and the reason why he is so expensive because all the upgrades this character has, and let's talk about exactly what that is. When you create an Outcast leader, you can actually use profiles from anybody in the Necromunda setting to create this character. You can use Dramatis Personae, or you could use the ones they provide in the book. You could even use the stats from different fighters from the different house books as well. And when I was looking at the list, some of the stats that Double Skull Wargaming used, what ended up happening is that he decided to use the profile from a Goliath Forge Tyrant as the starting stats for his leader. And because of that, makes him an outcast leader of the gang. And because he's also from a House Forge boss, Forge Tyrant, he also has access to gene smithing. And we're going to use that to actually increase this guy's stats. In fact, we're going to talk about that here in a second. Now, the archetype we're going to give this guy as well is the weird archetype. And the reason why is because Interrogator Forlax in the battle reports on YouTube has access to the biomancy discipline, so we're going to make this guy a psyker. Now, as you can see below, I actually have his stats laid out for you guys. By the time we get done with all the gene smithing upgrades that we're going to get for this character, Interrogator Forlax is going to have a 5-inch movement, a 3+ weapon skill, as well as a 2+ ballistic skill. This guy's got 4 strength, 4 toughness. He's also going to have 3 wounds as well. He's going to have 3+ for his initiative. He's also going to have 3 attacks base, as well as a 5+ for leadership, 5+ for cool, 5+ for willpower, as well as 5+ intelligence. So this guy is like the all-around perfect package in terms of stats for a leader. He's got really good psychology stats, really good physical stats, really good fighting and shooting stats. He's actually quite nimble and actually quite quick on the tabletop. So this guy is like the ultimate pwn in terms of the things you can do for this guy. So now that we're going to talk about his stats real quick, let's talk about exactly how we're going to make this character so OP in the first place. So let's look at his weapons and equipment. As you can see here, there's quite a bit on here, so let's talk about what he's going to be equipped with. He's going to be equipped with a Storm Bolter with mono sights, so that way he's got a +2 to aim and shoot action with his weapon, plus a Storm Bolter is no salvage either. His backup weapon is an auto pistol equipped with rad phage rounds, and you'll be able to do that because of the equipment list that you get from House Van Sar as well. He's also going to get access to a Thunder Hammer for close combat attacks as well. You're also going to give this guy hardened layered flak armor, so that way he's got a 5-up armor save, as well as a 4-up save against blasts, as well as -1 to enemy attacks with AP, and an armor undersuit is going to bump up to a 4-up save as well. So this guy's going to be very, very survivable. You're also given photo goggles, so that way you can see in the dark and with low visibility conditions out in the ash waste. Now, like we said before, he is going to be a weird archetype and given the biomancy discipline for the psychic discipline. He's going to give him fast healing, so that way he can remove flesh wounds at will. And you're also given the cause pain ability, which means that he could actually roll injury dice for fighters who have been injured earlier in the battle report as well. Now, this guy's going to be what's known as a Nat-born Goliath, and that's actually one of the gene smithing abilities that we get. It's going to cost you 20 credits. It's going to cost you 20 credits to get this. This guy's going to get +2 to his intelligence stats, so it's going to drop him from intelligence 7 to intelligence 5. You're also going to add 1 to his willpower. It's going to drop it from willpower 6 to willpower 5. And he does lose 1 to cool, which means he goes from cool from 4+ to 5+. That's really not all that big a deal because 5-up cool is still pretty good as well. That cool willpower being dropped down to 5+ is going to be really good as well to get off of your psychic abilities as well. And plus intelligence is also helpful in case you got to open up our doors or check loot boxes or the case may be. Now, at the same time, we're also giving this guy the Adaptive Mind gene upgrade as well, which means that his secondary skills will become primary in this situation, which is going to be good for him, which is going to be cunning skills, actually. So you can put Infiltrate or Overwatch on this guy and make him super deadly. You're also going to get Alpha's Lineage, which basically gives him +1 to his group activation, so he actually group activates 3 fighters at a time. Really helpful there. You also give this guy Iron Flesh, which is going to increase his wound characteristics from 2 to 3, so it makes him very survivable, as well as Redundant Organs, which means that you roll 2 injury dice and you pick which one you want to get in case he runs out of all 3 wounds. He's also got the Tyrant's Own upgrade as well, which means you're going to add that +1. You get 2 characteristics that you can increase by 1. You can do that for his Blissa skill to drop it to Blissa skill 2, and 1 more for his Willpower to drop it to Willpower 5. And then you give him Prime Specimen, which allows him to add +1 to any one of his characteristics. And we're going to use that for movement, making him movement 5 as well. So that's what the reason why this guy is such a beast, is because he has that Forged Tyrant profile with all these gene smithing upgrades. He's extremely expensive in terms of point values, but this guy can lay it down with the best of them. Really good at close combat, really good at shooting, and extremely survivable. So from there, we're going to have 2 Outcast champions. Outcast champion number 1 is going to cost you 320 credits. This character is going to be the Survivor archetype. It's going to be equipped with mesh armor, as well as packing an autocannon with a suspensor, so that we can shoot this as a basic action. He's got a last pistol for a backup weapon, as well as photo goggles, so that way you can see in all visibility conditions, as well as nerves of steel, because you'll be shot at quite a bit, because that autocannon is a beast. So if the longer you can pass this cool stat, you will no longer worry about being pinned at that point. At the same time, we also have Outcast champion number 2. This guy's going to cost you 165 credit. This character's going to have the Gunslinger archetype as well. There's also packing mesh armor for that 5 of armor save. This character's packing a plasma pistol as well as a last pistol as a backup weapon. They got photo goggles as well as the gunfighter skill as well. My suggestion to you for this character, as soon as possible, buy a hotshot last pack for that last pistol to give him a strength 4 shooting attack that they can use in close combat as well as with shooting. Now, your first 2 Hive Scum, you're going to have 5 of them in this gang. Hive Scum number 1 is going to cost you 145 credits. This fighter's got mesh armor for 5 up armor save, as well as a suppression laser, which is basically a laser shotgun that you get from the House Band Star list as well. He's got a last pistol with a hotshot last pack, as well as photo goggles, so that way you can see the dark, and that way his hotshot last pack. It's got strength for shooting in both close combat as well as in close range shooting. Now, Outcast Hive Scum number 2 is going to cost you 115 credits. This fighter's got mesh armor for that 5 up armor save, as well as paired last pistols with hotshot last packs, so that they have that strength for shooting attack, as well as photo goggles as well, so that way you can see in all lighting conditions. Now, your next 3 Hive Scum, Outcast Hive Scum number 3, 4, and 5, all 3 will equipped exactly the same at 115 credits apiece. All 3 have mesh armor, all 3 will have last guns with hotshot last packs, all 3 will have last pistols for a backup weapon, all 3 will have photo goggles, so that way they can shoot in all vision conditions as well. Now, as you can see with our Outcast Scum, as well as our champion number 2, we're really using the House Band Star equipment list in order to equip these guys with some really powerful shooting attacks, as well as some really good gear to increase their valuability in all conditions that they'll be fighting in. And at the same time, we're also going to have 2 vehicles as well. One is called Big Lily, the other one's called Eternal Contempt, and both of these are actually from the video reports that I was talking about earlier that Double Skull Wargaming has made. Now, Big Lily is going to cost us 370 credits. That's we're driven by a scum driver who's got photo goggles as well, so that they can see where they're going. And they're driving a tracked custom heavy vehicle with a transport bed and a mining laser. Kind of a really basic bare bones vehicle, but with the Aranthian Succession, as you go on with the campaign, you can develop this vehicle even further by making it more impressive. Now, another one you also have is what's called Eternal Contempt, which costs 315 credits. This one's actually driven by a Guild of Coin Hauler, who's also equipped with photo goggles as well, so that way you get that better psychology stats for the driver, and the photo goggles helps this person see in the dark. They drive a custom wheeled medium vehicle, and this vehicle has twin-linked bolters on it, as well as a nitro burner, all-wheel steering, as well as a small transport cage, so that way it can protect everybody who's on board this vehicle as well. Now, if you look at the battle reports, this vehicle also has mine dropper and all kinds of interesting things attached to it as well, but you can get those as your campaign develops. And lastly, the last member of your gang is going to be a Rogue Dog. It's going to cost you 50 credits. This is a hanger-on that's available to any gang. This fighter's got a last pistol Medicaid kit as well as Medicaid skill. And this guy's a patch up any of your fighters who do manage to roll a critical injury on the actual campaign as you go. Rogue Dogs are worth their weight in gold. So now that we're going to talk about the contents of this list, let's go and talk about exactly how you will use this gang on the tabletop. All right, so let's go on and talk about exactly how you're going to use this gang on the tabletop. As you can see, we have my little PowerPoint presentation here, and let's go on and talk about exactly what you're going to be doing on the tabletop. So here we are with our 4x4 table here on the right-hand side. Our two orange boxes here represent our enemy fire teams, enemy fire team number 1, as well as enemy fire team number 2. Now what's going to happen is this. Your support fire team is going to be mounted on Big Lily, which is the heavy custom vehicle, which is going to be represented by this blue triangle here, a rectangle here. That's going to consist of your Outcast champion number 1, which is the character's armed with the heavy auto cannon, as well as your Outcast Hive skill number 3 through 5. Those are the guys who are equipping with the hotshot last guns. From there, of course, you have your Assault Fire team. These guys are going to be mounted on this blue triangle, which is your Eternal Contempt, which is your medium custom vehicle. On that vehicle is going to be Inquisitor Forlax. We talked about all of his upgrades, as well as Outcast Champion number 2, which is the fighter's arm with the 2 pistols, as well as Hive Scum number 1 and 2. Hive Scum number 1 is the guy with the suppression laser, while Hive Scum number 2 is the one who's equipped with the 2 hotshot last pistols. And like I said before, they're mounted on Eternal Contempt, which also has twin-linked bolt guns. Now, as you can see right here, I do have my little characters over here that's going to come into play when we actually go down the slide. OC1 represents Outcast Champion 1, H3, H4, H5 represent your Hive Scums 3, 4, and 5. L represents your leader, Inquisitor Forlax. OC2 is your Outcast Champion number 2, and then H1, H2 are your Hive Scum 1 and 2, and of course we have our vehicles. The Eternal Contempt is represented by the triangle, and Big Lily is represented by the rectangle. So when you deploy on the battlefield, it doesn't really matter so much what your deployment is. Just have it to where you can put your Big Lily with your support fire team somewhat in the middle directly towards your enemies, while you put your Eternal Contempt on either flank, whatever one is more advantageous for you. And this is how you're going to start off with your deployment. Alright, so we're going to go to the next slide here. We're going to basically show you how it's going to work. So for the very first few turns, what you're going to do is you're going to close the distance directly towards your enemies. Your fire support team is going to go out with Big Lily, is going to go after one of your elements of your enemy, while the assault fire team out on the Eternal Contempt is going to go towards the other enemy as well. Now, while they're doing this, they're shooting at their opponents. Alright, so remember, Eternal Contempt has twin-linked bolt guns that can really cause some problems for your enemy, and Big Lily has a mining laser, not to mention it has a transport bin in the back, so your Outcast Champion number 1 can open fire with their autocannon, as well as the hotshot last guns from Outcast Hive Scums 3 through 5, and they can actually lay down suppressor to your enemy that way. And then of course your bolt gun goes here. Now, as the campaign develops, I would suggest you buy firing ports for the transport cage for your Eternal Contempt, so that way you can actually shoot out of the vehicle with your guys as they're driving towards them. So as you can see these red arrows here, you're driving towards your enemy. Now, once you get within range of your enemy to start actually engaging them, your vehicles act as your support elements, laying down suppressive fire to your enemy fire teams. Now, while this happens, of course, your teams will then dismount from the flanks and try to catch your enemy in kind of crossfire. So as you can see over here with your support fire team, Outcast Champion number 1, as well as Hive Scum number 3 through 5, they dismount over here and they start opening fire with their heavy hotshot last guns, as well as the autocannon, and start catching your enemy in a crossfire in combination with the mining laser from Big Lily. Over here on the left-hand side, the Eternal Contempt is opening with his double twin-linked bolt guns. At the same time, Inquisitor Forlax, as well as Outcast Champion number 2 with the twin pistols, as well as Hive Scum number 1 and 2, also dismount on the left-hand side and also attack from the flank. So your enemy is basically getting shot in 3 different locations: on the front, as well as to both the flanks, getting involved in a 3-way attack around them. The last thing you do, of course, is after you lay down the suppressive fire and take on enemies, then you guys commit forward. Charge your vehicle forward when everybody who's going to be in the way, same thing this side here. Your fire teams then swarm for the flanks as well and finish off anybody they find in close combat. Everybody in this list at least has a sidearm, so that way they can use that in close combat if they need to. Your Outcast leader, Inquisitor Forlax, is definitely kitted out for close combat, so do not hesitate to use him whatsoever to smash heads and also destroy your enemy. And that's basically how you're going to use this gang on the tabletop and your games of Necromunda. So the last thing we're going to talk about is how to develop this gang as your campaign develops. The first thing you want to do is, of course, upgrade weapons, purchases vehicle upgrades, as well as war gear for your vehicles. That'll be the primary focus for your gang for the most part. Your gang is pretty kitted out to kill for the most part. The other thing you want to get for your fighters maybe are things like frag grenades, for example, or photon flash grenades could be another good thing, or close combat weapons if you want to make it a little bit more effective in close combat. It's pretty much up to you how you want to do so. Your vehicles, though, are going to be the main killers in your gang, especially if you're being played out in the Ash Waste, so that might be something you want to get for those guys as well. Also, another option for you is to purchase Ash Waste grav cutters for your entire gang as well. They're only 60 credits a piece, so you can actually mount your fighters on grav cutters, have them zoom around the battlefield, and cause all kinds of problems for your enemy as well. Now, the nice thing about this gang too is that you only have 8 fighters in this gang, so if you want to recruit more fighters later on, you can easily do so. I would suggest recruiting another Outcast champion and maybe another Outcast Hive Scum, so that way you have more champions in your gang as well as another Outcast Hive Scum to kind of balance it out as well, because you do have to worry about that composition rule taking place. And with that Outcast champion, equip them any way that you want to, whether you want more of a close combat fighter or more of a shooting character. It could be another Psyker if you want to, or a mutant. It's entirely up to you how you want to make that Outcast champion. And same with the other Outcast Hive Scum, equip them any way that you want to as well. And like I said before, go and make improvement to all weapons and war gear. Give them better weapons, hotshot power packs for guys who are armed with last guns, for example, grenades, close combat weapons, better armor, field armor, for example, would be really cool to put on these guys as well. It's entirely up to you and based on your preference for playing. So in conclusion, this is a very powerful as well as interesting build. You can create some really great, zany and wacky type of things, especially when it comes to Outcast gangs. You can create gangs that no one has ever seen before, which is one of the reasons why I love Outcast gangs so much. Like I said, the only other versatile gang besides an Outcast gang is a Venator gang, and actually I might go back and actually start making some Venator videos as well, because there's some pretty cool things you can do with that gang list as well. And like I said before, this list is really good for either campaigns or even just for skirmish games. You just want to have a one-off skirmish game to see what it's like to play. Like, for example, Inquisition 28mm is a really popular game that a lot of people like to play. You could use this kind of list in order to do that. Make it all kinds of fun. And like I said before, this was based on a video that I watched from Double Skull Wargaming with his characters. That's what inspired this list. I highly suggest you go check out that channel as well as the videos they create. It's really good stuff. It's got a really cool narrative, kind of fluff vibe going on with it, and it's really, really awesome and extremely entertaining as well. So there you guys have it. That's going to do it with this video. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blog.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. I will catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.